Hello, my name is Kit Kat. I'm an artist here on YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Peachtober because I did Peachtober last month for the month of October and I completed the whole month, which is a really big deal because it's something that I, in the past when trying to do a challenge like that, had never been able to finish it. So today I'm going to be talking about every design I made, kind of my process for how I did it. I will also be talking about just how I prepped for everything beforehand. So there was a lot smoother of a process for me and made it possible for me to accomplish it. And then finally, I'm going to talk about just some of the behind the scenes of doing Peachtober because it was honestly kind of a crazy month. And it was kind of a big deal that I finished it with everything else that was going on within the month of October. So with that, let's get into talking about it. While we sit down and chat, make sure to grab a delicious drink, whether that's coffee, whether that's water, whether that's a smoothie. I've been really into smoothies as of recently. My go-to is like a berries with yogurt, peanut butter, and milk, which is a really interesting combo. My husband does not like the peanut butter in it. So if you really are particular about your smoothies, maybe don't try it with the peanut butter. But if you want to try something new and get some protein, this is Alongside my smoothie, I will have my computer where I'll have the design pulled up and also my sketchbook, basically just so I can remember what my thought process was with each design. Before we get into talking about all the designs I did, I want to take a little bit of time to just talk about basically how I prepped for everything and also just how the month looked for me schedule-wise in being able to accomplish it. So if you watched my first Peachtober video, you'll know that I pre-sketched everything I was going to make for Peachtober, which was probably the best idea I've ever had in regards to a challenge. I don't know why I never thought beforehand of sketching everything before the challenge started, because that made it so much easier in being able to go about the challenge. And I feel like if I did something like this again, I would totally go about it that way because it was super easy. Each day would come, I'd already know the prompt, I'd already know what I was kind of gonna be doing that day, and that just made the whole process a lot less complex. I pre-sketched all the designs, and then another thing that I did to make it easier was I pre-filmed ahead of time. So I would film the Peachtober that was supposed to go up the next day, the day before, so that I could do all the editing, so that then the next day that would be going up and then I'd be working on the one for the day after that. And another thing I did is when it came to the weekends, there were a few where I knew I was gonna be really busy, so I actually would record 2 days in a row on the day before so that I wouldn't have to stress over the weekend. And basically so that the video could be edited and ready to go, so that on the weekend when I was gonna be busy, I already had it ready to go. I know that kind of the whole goal is to make art every day. And yeah, I wasn't able to per se, if we're being honest, do it every day to a T. But I'm still really grateful that I was able to make so much art within a given month. That's 31 days in October, so I had 31 brand new pieces that came out of the challenge. I know everybody has their own way of going about it, and I want to be honest with you that I did not film things day of. I filmed it the day before. And I really prepped in that way to make it easier for my schedule. Another thing I want to preface is that during the month of October, I did not have a job. And so I had a lot of free time on my hands to be able to put together the design and then edit the video and then make sure it was all uploaded with everything that needed to happen. That gave me so much more time. I cannot imagine doing that challenge, having a full-time job, because it felt like my full-time job every day, putting together the videos and editing everything and like posting it and promoting it and just all the different aspects of doing it. So I do feel like that also needs to be something I address in this video. I have indeed gotten a job. It's gonna be part-time. I'm gonna be a barista, which is super fun. And I love the coffee at the coffee shop I'm gonna be working at. I'm super excited because it's a little bit more in the city. And I really wanted to get a job where I had a reason to like be going more into like the city. Just because I love the city and it's so inspiring. So I'm super excited to be inspired at my job, be inspired by the people I meet, and also just like be inspired by the city and get more ideas for future art. Okay, last thing I want to say about the like beforehand is the most important thing, which is that I went on a trip in October to Europe. And with going on that trip, I did record some things ahead of time. I was planning to record everything while I was in Europe, but then when I sat down with it, it was like, I cannot possibly record every single video while I'm in Europe because this is a 10-day trip. And part of the trip was me doing social media for an organization. So it wasn't like a vacation per se. This was like an actual like work trip. And I was like, I'm gonna be burnt out if I try to be like making a video all 10 days of the trip and be trying to film for the social media and just all that. So what I did is I kind of knew that with like being in the airport, that would be a day I'd be able to film and edit really easily. So I used those as filming days. And then another thing I did was I recorded, I think like 4 to 5 videos before I left for the trip, so that those would be going up as I was like getting to the countries to just make it smoother. So I like had the 4 to 5 days, and then I had the day of like travel where I was at the airport that was like pre-edited that I scheduled. And then I really prioritized filming and editing so that then the second week of the trip I wouldn't have to be like stressed with that, because those days would like fit into the next week where I hadn't filmed yet, if that makes sense. That's how I went about it. I know I feel like there's like this level where I have had moments where I'm like, dude, I feel like I cheated. But the reality is I wanted to accomplish it. I wanted to film videos to show my process, and I wanted to do well at it. I wanted to set myself up for success. And I knew that during that trip that it was gonna just be impossible for me to film every day. And it absolutely was. Like, I really only made the days that I did film work for me. And I think the days, like if I had tried to film all the days, I wouldn't have accomplished Peachtober. I think ultimately it was the right decision, and it worked best for me to be able to get everything done. This is a super important conversation to have, like, because social media often seems like this place where everything is like perfect. And I wanted to sit down for this video and just make sure that everyone's aware that although I love doing social media and though I love showing my process, it's also important to recognize that I pre-plan things and I pre-record things and I prep ahead of time. So sometimes you're seeing something on my social media that I filmed 2 or 3 days ago. And I actually think that's really normal for most people who are doing things like YouTube or social media on a regular basis. Like, you pre-record things. Like, you do not record everything that day. Quote me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm sure there are people who do, but it's really hard to like do it day of, because even just like the editing process can take a good amount of time to do, and sometimes can take longer than the filming process. So I think it's just important to note that yes, social media can be really fun to be a part of and use, but don't just assume that every creator you watch and love is always like doing things exactly how they make it look like they're doing it. Like, there's a lot more layers to that, and I want to show that as a part of my art process too. I do have to like prep things, and I do have to like plan ahead, and that is a part of my process, and that is what makes it easier for me to be able to put out content and to be able to share what I'm doing. So that is a little bit of the behind the scenes of my Peachtober and how I went about things. Now I want to talk about the designs and kind of my process for that. And I want to talk about every design I made and kind of rate it for you and tell you like if I think I did a good job or if I like don't like it, because there are some I don't like. And I think part of Peachtober was at some points just putting out the work. It wasn't always about putting out my best work. It was about accomplishing the challenge and accomplishing what was being required in the challenge. Let's get started. The first prompt of Peachtober was Daisy, and I made this. I really love this piece. I feel like with challenges, and maybe other artists get this, like I'm one of those people where I feel like I start really strong. Like my first piece is always pretty good, goes with the prompt, usually love it. Honestly, usually the first like 4 to 5 pieces of a challenge are going to be some of my favorites, because I feel like I start on like this like great foot of like, I'm super excited about this challenge. I'm ready to like just get started and make cool art, and I'm like super excited. And then as the challenge goes on, then it gets harder and I start to go downhill a little bit, if we're being honest. Maybe some artists are like, no, actually like the first pieces are really hard and then I start really getting into it. To each their own process. Anyway, I really like the piece that I did for Daisy. The color palette I used was super fun, and I will say how I went about Peachtober was I had basically an hour, sometimes less than, to do the Peachtober design. And I would have 4 colors. A lot of people were asking me how I got my 4 colors. This lovely game called Hues and Cues has these cards in it. And basically, I used the color palettes from the cards for a lot of the color palettes that I like made for each design. That was sort of my way of coming up with colors. But sometimes I would also like take maybe 2 color palettes from the game and be like, okay, I really like these 2 colors, and I really like these 2 colors. Let's just combine them together for the color palette. So that's how I made my color palettes, in case you were wondering. I designed everything on my iPad. I used Procreate for every design I made. And I went between like 2 different pencil styles in Procreate. I used the 6B pencil for pretty much everything. And then I used I forget the name of the other pencil. It's like it's one of the calligraphy pencils, and I think it starts with an M. I will include it here in the video because I'm forgetting the name. So I used those 2 pencils for all the designs. Another thing I did was I had the time limit, and that really helped me to just like accomplish the design and also to just like finish it. So sometimes I wouldn't love how it ended at the end of like the hour that I had of designing it, but I didn't have any more time, and at least I like finished the design. Going back to the Daisy design, I'm going to rate all of my designs 1 through 10. I just think that's an easy way of doing it. This design was definitely one of my favorites, but it wasn't my favorite. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it was a really good start. And I do like how it turned out, and I feel like I could use it as like a print or sticker in the future. Also, just gonna put this in here now, in regards to all the designs, if there is any design that you love and would love to have as a sticker or a print, please, 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 please comment below, because I am trying to decide which ones I want to turn into prints / stickers / just different things for my shop. So let me know. Now that we've kind of gone through most of the important details, we should be able to get through all the other designs pretty quickly. So let's move on to design number 2. Design 2's prompt was the word sparkle, and I came up with this design. This is truly like honestly one of my favorite designs from the whole thing. I went on Pinterest a little bit for inspiration as I was like coming up with the sketches, and I saw this like art style where it was like a little village, and I was like, ooh, I really like that idea. And so then I just decided like that the sparkle part would be like the little star on top of like the point of the building. You know, to each their own. Like everybody did such different things for this prompt that day. I remember like when I was going on Instagram looking at what everyone else did, I was like, wow, everyone did really different things for this prompt. But I love that. I love that like people would take a prompt and just like completely change it to like something I never would have thought of. It was so cool and creative to just like watch how people did different things with the prompt. When I thought about the design, I was like, I feel like it'd be really fun with a primary color palette. So that's what I did for the design. And I also added a border with like the stars around the border to continue to incorporate the sparkle motif into it. And I would say I'm gonna give this design actually a 10 out of 10 because it really is one of my favorite designs, and I would love to turn this design into a print. But then again, I want to know what other people think of the designs and like what are other people's favorite design, because something that like I might love might not be a crowd pleaser for everybody else that they might want to like get off of my shop website. So that's why I'm sort of like, okay, I love this one, 10 out of 10, but what do you think? Day 3's prompt was the word paw. This one was super fun and so cute. I love dogs, so I was like, totally can get behind this because I can draw cute little dogs with the word paw. And obviously with this one, people did lots of different things because a lot of animals have paws. So it wasn't so like restricting to just like one animal, which was cool. But I did dogs for this one. I used a kind of a mixed color palette. It had oranges, purples, blues. I thought that would be a fun color palette to use for this one, and very like funk poppy. When I look at this piece in particular, I can see how it kind of implemented into other pieces because I tried to apply like patterns and stuff to my pieces, and some of my pieces were definitely more abstract like this one, and I like that about this piece. I think it's cool. I would say the dogs are cute. I'm gonna be honest, I think they could be cuter. This is me critiquing my work. I don't love the dogs. They're cute, but like, I don't know. I think they could be cuter. And so in regards to rating this one, I think I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10. I really love the color palette. I really love the idea and the concept, and I somewhat love how it turned out. But I just like look at the dogs and I don't know why, but I don't love them. Like there are other pieces I did that are just way better than this one, in my opinion. Day 4 was the prompt sky. This one was like, okay, I don't know why, but I actually had so much fun with this prompt, and a lot of people really liked this prompt. I remember a lot of people were like, yo, you should totally turn this one into a print. So I'm also considering turning this design into a print. But basically what I love about this one is I really just allowed myself to go crazy with like the patterns. And if you've used Procreate before, you know that like there's like layers, and then there's also like ways you can edit the layers where you can like kind of distort things or make it look different. So I really played around with that in this design, and I have to say I really like that about the design. I think it's super cool. I think I was allowing myself to just have fun more on this design and go a little crazy with my pencil, and I agree it could be a really cool print. So if enough people want it as a print, I will definitely highly consider this as one of the designs to possibly turn into a print. So in regards to rating, I'm gonna give this one a 9.5 out of 10, honestly. It's like close to a 10 because it just was like fun, and I allowed myself to just not be so like constricted to just like this one way of doing like everything. And I don't know, I remember like making it and just having a lot of fun playing around with like the layers and stuff. The only reason I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 is because there are other ones that I do love more than this one. I also like the color palette. If you're new here and you didn't know, I love the primary colors. They are like some of my favorite colors, and I love using them in my work. And this one once again includes some of the primary colors, but in a different way, and like slightly different shades of primary colors. So yeah, I have to say it is definitely a top one because of the primary colors. On to day 5. Day 5's word was fawn. I have to say, in regards to the prompt, I was like, how am I gonna do this? Like, I've never drawn a fawn before, let alone like a deer. I've never drawn either of those. So when coming up with like the design, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I just tried my best. I just worked with what I could think of. I feel like in regards to fawns and stuff, I feel like I always see them on Instagram and they always have strawberries with them. That was just like the first thing that came to mind. I decided to include a duck. There is no reason for why I included a duck. Like, there's no thought process with that or like any like deeper meaning. I just thought a duck would be cute, and I thought it'd be cute, like a little like river with like a fawn like jumping over the duck over like the river and like the strawberries. The color palette was definitely intentional. I felt like I needed to make sure I picked colors that really fit the design. Like, obviously the fawn is going to have to be a specific color so that people hopefully know it's a fawn. And I have to say, I did not love the prompt at first, but when I look at this design, I think it's really cute. And I'm surprised at how well it turned out for how unexcited I was about this prompt. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it turned out a lot better than what I thought. And I do think it's really cute. I don't know if I could put this out as a print because I'm not sure it really quite fits the theme of like a lot of the work I normally use for my shop. But I want to give it the benefit of the doubt that it still was pretty cute and turned out pretty good. For day 6, the prompt was sketch. I was so excited about this prompt. And I have to say, I look at this design and it's like absolutely chaotic, but I love it because this is another one where I just allowed myself to have fun and I went crazy and I was like taking my pencil everywhere over that iPad and I was using the layers and I was like distorting things, changing the way the color looked, changing the overlay or the lighting of how it looked. And I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 because I don't think it's like the best one I made, but I'm going to give it like an 8.5 out of 10 because I had a lot of fun with it. I loved the color palette that I used for this one. And I also just think that it, like, I look at it and it just feels like my brain when I'm trying to like make art. Like, this is like the colors that I imagine my brain to inhabit. And this is like the vibe of my brain when trying to come up with an art piece. Like, it's just like a little bit chaotic, if we're being honest. The next prompt was Bud for day 7. I loved this prompt because I felt like I could be creative with it. So I did Bud as like a friend, like your buddy. But then another thing I incorporated was on one of the gal's shirts, it has like a little flower to kind of represent like a bud, like a flower bud. I love the color palette. I love drawing friends together. It's just like super cute to draw little cartoons of friends having a good time together. I think it could be a really cute print. I think it could definitely engage with a lot of people who maybe, as we're coming up on Christmas, want to get something special for their friend. So I have considered making this one into a print as well. In regards to rating this one, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I loved the word, I loved the color palette, I loved the ultimate design. It was very like original to what my original sketch was, and most of the first probably like 15 of the designs fit the original sketches, and then towards the end I would take the sketch and kind of change some things with it, but this one fit my original intent for the prompt and I really love it. I think it's super cute and I just love that green color, like that green pop color. I just think it's a really fun color and I've been really enjoying that color again. Day 8 was River, and my design for day 8, I'm gonna be honest, I hope people knew it was a river, but then sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, did people know that I was like doing a river? But I like mountains and I like suns. I like drawing those themes as well in a design. And I do like the color palette for this one. I do think it could be a cute print, but I'm gonna give this one like a 6 out of 10 because it feels a little too simple. And I think this day I had less time to work on the design, if I'm being honest. So I sort of see that in the design. I also think this one is almost too similar to another one, but that's just my opinion on it. if you think this one's really cute and should be a print, you can let me know, but I just like, I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite, but it's not my favorite. Day 9 was the word apricot. I'm gonna be honest, apricot? Apricot. Gosh, I can't say that word. I do really like this design, I have to say. I don't know if it looks like an apricot, but I loved the colors. They were giving like Halloween-esque secondary colors. I'm gonna be honest, when I look at it, I do feel like they look more like a pumpkin than an apricot, but I still think it's cute. Another thing is like the word daisy just like kept coming to mind. So a lot of these prompts, a lot of times for my like flower incorporation, I would just like incorporate like the daisy design that I was doing from the beginning. I feel like I incorporated that into so many of the designs. I don't really know why. Like there's no reason why. It was just like, I just thought it was cute and I thought it fit well with a lot of the different designs, including like a cute little flower that almost looked like the daisy from the beginning. So with this design, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because I'm mixed if the apricot really looks like an apricot, but I love the color palette and I did get a lot of compliments I remember on this one, and people really liked the color palette for this one, and I do just love the detail. I feel like I gave this one a lot more time than I did on some of the others, and I can see that in the final result. Day 10 was the word pixel. And this is the like one design that I feel like really doesn't look like any of the other designs. And I'm gonna let you know right now here at the beginning, my rating is like 2 out of 10. This is like one of my least favorite designs from the whole thing. I'm still proud of myself for trying something new, which is what I was trying to do. And it's funny, I remember showing this design to my husband. He was like, this is so cool. And I was like, really? I hate this one. This is like one of my least favorite designs from the whole experience. But I did like the color palette, so I can't completely give it like a 0. And I did like that I gave something new a try in trying to make it look like pixelated almost, if that makes sense, to go with the word. And I will say it's not like the worst thing I've ever made in my entire life. So it's like we can't completely give it a 0. So we're giving it a 2 for giving something new a try, putting in a little effort, and at least showing up for Peachtober. Day 11, the prompt was wheel. This design is seriously one of my favorite designs like from the whole thing. I don't know why, but I just love this design. I love the style of the cars. The color palette turned out really well, and it gave like this nighttime vibe. I love the color blue. That's like that main color of the square, and it's like one of my favorite colors. It like reminds me of ultramarine blue, which I guess is sort of what the vibe was that I was going for, which is one of my favorite colors. I'm like practically wearing it. And so I'm giving this design a 10 out of 10. I would love to turn this into a print. I don't know if people will want this as a print, so please let me know, because I really want to turn this one into a print, but like if people don't love it as much as I do, then I probably won't turn it into a print. But it's super cute, and also like the bus was like super fun to incorporate with like that darker yellow vibe that I had in my color palette. So this design, like one of my top picks from all of Peachtober actually. Day 12 was the prompt Earth, and I have to say I also really like this design. I felt like it was a really funny idea. I had a lot of people that were like, oh, I really like this one. This is like so funny, including my husband, who was like, wow, this idea is so silly goofy. And I was like, thank you. So I'm a fan of this one. The color palette's fun. There are a few things I like. If I could go back and change them, I probably would, like including, I think that the color of like Earth, the character, could be a lighter blue. I think it's too dark, and so I think that he doesn't stand out as much as some of the other things on the page. And like he's supposed to be the focus, but he feels like he's like out of focus, if that makes sense. So that's like one of the things that bothers me about the design. But I'm gonna give it like a 8.5 out of 10. I feel like that's my neutral number when I like really like it, but it's not quite to like the level of what I want it to be. And that is definitely this piece. It's like, I like it. I like the color palette. I like the concept. I thought I had fun doing it, and I thought it was fun, but I think it could be better. So I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. Day 13 was cape, and I love how people did this word. Like, some people did like the beach, like Cape May or something. And I'm like, why didn't I do that? I would have honestly rather done that. But all I could think of was a wizard. So I did a wizard little girl with her little cape, and it looks like what you would imagine a wizard girl with a cape. I obviously used purple as like one of my main colors, because when I think of wizards, I just like think of the color purple personally. I love the color palette. I don't love how this design turned out, if I'm being honest. It's not horrible, but I just think there are other designs I made that are even better from Peachtober, so I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. I just don't think this was like a great design, and I feel like the original sketch was actually cuter than how this turned out, in my opinion. Day 14 was burrow. This design is like such an interesting one because it's actually really different from what I originally planned to do for burrow. I was planning to do like little animals in like a burrow, like different little burrows and then different animals. But then like when I sat and thought about it, I was like, you know, it'd be really funny if I made the burrow like this little girl. If I made the burrow like this girl who like loves reading or art or something, and she just like has her burrow, and that is where she goes when she wants to just sit and rest and chill out. And so that is pretty much the inspiration of the design. And so I have to say, this is a design I didn't expect to love when I came up with the idea, but then because I changed the idea and changed the concept for it, I look at it and it's actually like another one of my favorite designs. There's like textures and there's like fun little squiggles, and I feel like my drawing and sketching was very like loose, but I think it really works for the design. I really like the color palette that I used for this one, which is funny because it's a lot of colors I don't normally gravitate towards, especially like just like a lot of green. But I feel like during Peachtober, I really started to like the color green again, and it's been a long time. Like, I used to like green, and then there was like just a phase of not really wanting to use green as much in my work and wanting to use other colors, and now I'm kind of back at like, okay, green's a good color. I don't need to use it every time I make something, but like it's a cool color. I like green. So this design I'm going to give a 9.5 out of 10 because it's one of my favorites, and it just reminds me of myself. Like, when I think about just art making, I just imagine myself going into my little burrow and making art and having my alone time to do that. And it's funny, I'm an extrovert and I love being around people, but when I'm making art, it's kind of hard sometimes to like make art around other people, so I sort of enjoy my own little space when I'm making my own art, if that makes sense. So this one's a 9.5 out of 10. It just feels like super cozy, and it just feels like a place I would want to go to, and that makes me really love it. Day 15 was lamp, and I was also going to do a very different idea, and the idea I ended up coming up with that I did for this was like similar to the first idea, but it like took the lamps and then made it into a pattern instead of just like all the lamps sitting in the middle of the art piece. This is not my favorite, if we're being real, but I do like the color palette. I like the textures and stuff. This one's really funny. I remember I had taken a picture of my jeans that day, so I actually like took that, and that's like the background texture of this piece, but I just like set it to like a really low opacity, and then I like changed like the layers, but it like made for this really cool pattern in the background of the piece, which was really fun. And then I also, with the like lights, I kind of like wanted to show that the light was like coming down off the lamp. So I do actually like that aspect of this piece. I think that was like a cool implementation. It's not my favorite, so I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10 because like it's fun and I like how I was creative with it, but it's one I don't really see being a print, and it's like one that was sort of another just like trying to get through Peachtober in some aspects. and trying to just make sure I'm showing up and doing the work. Day 16 was the prompt owl, and we'll just put it straight. This is also one of my least favorite designs. It just kind of feels really flat and lame and like kind of one of those pieces where it's like you're just trying to like push through the like I'm starting to hit my I'm kind of over this and like am I actually gonna be able to finish this challenge? Like this is that piece. It feels that way. I can feel the just like I'm just trying to do this so that at least I'm showing up and doing it. So I'm giving it like, did I rate it? I don't know if I rated it yet, but I'm gonna rate it like a 2 out of 10 as well, because I like the color palette and I would love to use the color palette again, but for a different type of piece. And 2, I am proud of myself for showing up and at least trying to do it. 3, I didn't love the prompt. I don't normally draw owls. I remember I was like obsessed with owls in middle school, but I feel like that obsession went a little too hard. And so like, then I just like didn't like owls anymore. And I've kind of been that way ever since. So I just don't really love owls. It was hard for me to feel excited or find passion with the prompt. So I think that's sort of why it didn't come out as good as some of the others. And so it's a 2 out of 10 for me. Day 17 was the prompt slow. I really liked this prompt, and I liked the idea of just a girl sitting on the couch and she's breathing and she's reading a book and just like taking that deep breath and just relaxing and chilling. And there are a few things I'd change about this one now that I'm looking at it here, but I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10 because I love the color palette, I love the patterns, I love how it turned out. I remember really enjoying making this one. I do think it could be a print, and I just think people relate with like that needing to pause and breathe, and I feel like sitting on a couch is just a nice place and spot to take a deep breath. And I just think this one's really cute. What can I say? The color palette is so fun. I really have fallen in love with purple again as a color. And so I can see that in a lot of the pieces I made as well. Like purple, pink, and green, colors that I used to like kind of not use as much, have really come back into my work. And it's been fun to like see how I use them. And yeah, I just think she's so cute. And I just want to be her. I just want to sit on this like blue couch and take a breath and slow down. Day 18 was the word fast. So I loved that last one was slow, and then it's just like the complete opposite and it's fast. And the only thing that I could imagine doing was like a race car. So that is exactly what I did. I love this design. Like, let me tell you here, this one's like 11 out of 10 for me. We're going up and above and beyond because this one was so fun. I loved the patterns that I used in it. I loved the different stylizations of things I did. I love the race car. I love that it's pink. I remember when I put it up, the song that I used was the like Charlie XCX song for this, basically this design, because that was all I could think of, was just like that song and like this idea and just like fast, crazy, spontaneous. That is how this feels. I love this design. I would love to turn it into a print or a sticker. I think either or would be hilarious. And I just, yeah, what can I say? Like, this one is so fun and one of my top picks from the Peachtober challenge. Day 19 was crocodile. This prompt was really fun to work with as well. I don't know if I've ever drawn a crocodile before. I'm kind of scared of them. I'm like scared of things with like sharp teeth. Like, for example, I don't like sharks, and I cannot watch things with like sharks. Like even Finding Nemo, I love the movie, but like the scene with the shark is just scary for me personally. And the whale. I've always had this deep fear of being swallowed alive by a whale. That's kind of off topic, but I feel like crocodiles are kind of in that like category of like animals that I'm sort of scared of. So I was proud of myself for doing this prompt because I wouldn't say that I like love crocodiles. But these ones are really cute. I tried to make them more cute-esque, not creepy. And I remember showing this prompt as well to my husband, and he just like really loved the color palette and loved the final design. So I have to say, this one's like sort of a top contender as well of designs that I really liked, but I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10, only because like I wish there would have been a little bit more to it. I remember this was one of the designs I did on my trip. So this was the one I made while I was in the airport, and while I was at the airport, I wasn't able to like get on the plane because the plane got delayed for like 4 hours and it took forever, and it was just like crazy. And so I like wasn't even really feeling making the design. So yeah, but it still turned out really good for sort of a... You can come over. Hi.
Hello, vlog.
This is my husband. Quick little interruption. And now he's gonna leave so I can finish talking about peachtober. So yeah, I like the crocodile and it turned out really good, and I like the prompt, and I don't remember what I just rated it, but I think it turned out good. Day 20, the prompt was rest. I remember I only had 15 minutes to work on this prompt, and we were in Croatia when I worked on this one, and so it's not my favorite design because I didn't really have a lot of time. So this design is probably like a 4 out of 10 for me. I liked the color palette and it was sort of different and interesting, but I don't really like the final outcome. I liked the concept, but I just don't think I had enough time, and if I could redo this one, I totally would. I'd change how I did the colors and probably like do a few things differently, but it's not the worst one. It's not my least favorite of all the things I made during Peachtober. Day 21, the prompt was greenhouse, and this was another day where I only had 15 minutes to work on the design, and I can tell when I look at the design, I liked the color palette, I liked the vision, I liked the concept for the prompt, but it's not my favorite, so I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 10 as well. But there's the reality of just like, I only had like 15 minutes to make the design, so it sort of makes sense why it turned out the way it did. Day 22, the word was village. This is a really cool design because I was getting to travel through all these like beautiful villages in Croatia and Slovenia, and those really inspired the prompt, and that just like made it so much more fun to work on because it was like actually like in a village when making it, and like when filming and basically sharing with you all. And so I have to say, I'm gonna give this one like a 9 out of 10. There's a few things I'd probably change about it, but I really like how it turned out, and it was very different from my original idea for the design, but I decided to completely change it because I was just so inspired by where I was and felt like where I was at the moment honestly fit the theme better than what I originally had come up with. And the color palette was really fun for this one, and I don't know, it just like has a special place in the Peachtober process because it reminds me of my travels in Europe when I look at it, and I can just see like the inspiration from things I saw while I was there that I put into the idea for the prompt. So 9 out of 10 for this one. Day 23, the prompt was party. I love a good party. I love a good disco ball. So I have to say, I like this one just because it's so cute. It's like girls on the dance floor having a great time at a disco dance party. They're grooving, they're moving, they're having fun. And it's really cute. I feel like it could be a really cute print, especially for people that like the colors and the final design. But I am going to give it like an 8.5 out of 10 because if I could redo a few things, I probably would. And I also just think that there were some things I made throughout Peachtober that were better than this, if that makes sense. But it was really cute, and I had more time to work on it, and I can see that in the final result. I made this one while flying to Albania, and so I had extra time to work on it. I gave myself the full hour to actually like complete this one, and I can really see that in how it turned out. Day 24, the prompt was radish. Gonna be honest, it went like a completely different route compared to like the sketch I had done, and the sketch looks way better for this one. The color palette, I thought it was gonna work really well for this, and then the more I look at it, the more I'm just like, I think this could be so much better. So I'm actually gonna give it like a 5 out of 10. It's just like probably one of my lesser favorites from everything I created. It's not horrible, and I like some of the detail, and I think if I like was able to go back in and kind of clean up a few of like the lines with the pencil, and also just like clean up the colors, it could look a lot better. But then the other thing is that like the word was radish, and like I barely can see the radish in the design. Like it's not obvious, and I wish I would have like tried to make the radish more obvious in my design. So that's my thoughts on this one. Day 25 was the word stone, and okay, this one reminds me way too much of one of the first ones back at the beginning. The prompt was river. This one and that one like look almost practically the same, just different color palettes. So I'm giving this one like a 3 out of 10 because it just feels a little bit too similar to that one. And also, I don't know if people actually realize that the little like pink things in the corner are the stones. I just feel like it's not that obvious. So I don't know if it really fits the prompt that well. And I just, like, I love the colors, but I just don't know if it like really works with like everything else I was kind of doing. And yeah, that's that. Day 26 was the word backpack. Made me think of Dora, lol. But I look at this and I'm gonna be honest, I hate this one. I don't like the color palette. It feels chaotic. It feels like middle school in an art piece. It feels like justice, and it looks like something I would have liked in like the 7th grade, and I just don't like it. And I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10. I just don't like this one, and I am not proud of it, but I think I had like just gotten back from my trip, so I was really just pushing through and trying to cruise to the end there. And as I said, the beginning, it was a lot easier to be invested in some of the pieces, and at the end I did struggle a little bit. And then the last few days I feel like I really picked up and made some of the best stuff too at the end. But this one is not one of those. Day 27 was the prompt grass, and I did like the prompt. I actually do like this one. It feels very like vector image, could go on a t-shirt. This one could be a sticker. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because I think it could be better, but I don't hate it, and I do think it's cute, and I do like the color palette, and I do think there are people who this is like a style they would really like as a sticker or a print. So it's not like throwaway, it's just, it's okay. That's not horrible. It's not my favorite. And that's that. Day 28, the prompt was pony. I honestly loved the prompt. I loved the design. I love what I did with this one. This one is like also like 10 out of 10, honestly going on 11 out of 10 because I love the color palette. I like how it turned out. I like the shadows. I can like feel the detail, and just like I look at it and I'm like, wow, I put the work in and it actually turned out good. I could totally see this being a print, and I just think it's super cute and I love it. And yeah, that is all I have to say about that. The concept was that the pony was like jumping over the fence and that she was like finally free. And that was like the idea when I thought about pony. And I liked how people went about this one because some people did ponytails, which I thought was really hilarious. So I liked that too. It was really fun to see how people took that prompt and just went about it. Day 29, the prompt was break. When I thought of break, I thought of like a old vase breaking, and so that is quite literally what I did. And I actually really like this one. I love the color palette because I love like turquoise blue against like a dark blue and then like red. I just think it's a fun color palette to use. And I do think the vase is really cute, and it's not like a perfect vase. It doesn't look like symmetrical, but I feel like an old Greek vase doesn't always look so symmetrical when I look at them in photos, so I think that's what I was going for. And then I came up at the end to add like a little heart where like the crack in the vase was going through the heart, kind of representing like heartbreak, even though I like literally can't understand because I love being married and I love my husband, but I really like just that idea and that silly goofy take on it. And I'm gonna give it like I want to say 7.5 out of 10 because it doesn't have a ton of detail, but I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because I do like it, and I like the color palette, and I do like the final result, and it just feels a lot more cohesive and better than some of the other ones that I made. Day 30 was Pearl. I really liked the prompt. I really liked the color palette, and I really liked the final design. I'm gonna give this one a 9.5 out of 10, only because I think it could be slightly better, but it's really pretty good. And I love the detail, I love the pattern, and I love the pearl. I feel like the pearl is somewhat at the center, and I don't know. It's like super fun and like coral reef vibes, and I was really excited about that with this prompt. And we made it to the last day, day 31. The prompt was spider, and I had to go out with a bang. So I have to say, I do really like the final design I did. I think this is a fun one as well, and I actually wouldn't really change anything about this, so I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because I do think I ended on a pretty good note, and I did put the effort and time into this last piece because I knew it was the last one and I wanted to end on a strong note. And I feel like the spiders had a lot of fun, quirky patterns and colors. And then also the color palette, I did specifically pick it to be Halloween-esque colors because October 31st is Halloween. So we had to incorporate that vibe together. And so that was Peachtober. I also put together like all my pieces into like one big thing, and it was really fun to just like see everything all together and see all the different colors I used, and it made me like so happy because I just love lots of different colors. So it was really cool to just see all the colors together, and that is how I completed Peachtober. And those are the different designs I did, how they turned out, and just my thoughts on the work that I accomplished. Thank you for joining me today to talk about Peachtober. Thank you if you followed my journey on Instagram and TikTok with Peachtober. It was so fun. I feel like there was a lot of new people that followed during that month, and that was like so fun to just engage with new people, meet new artists through this, and just like support their work too. And so yeah, that is all I have to say about Peachtober, and I will see you in the next YouTube video. If you're new here, thanks for joining. If you have not yet subscribed or liked, you should totally go do that right now. That'd be super helpful. And as always, I will catch you on the flippity flop. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.